do we actually understand what AI is becoming useful for? I've been thinking about this because I feel the conversation around AI has become too extreme. When it first became popular, the common reaction was how incredible the technology is. But that conversation has now shifted. You hear a lot more about how AI is making people lazy, how many people depend on it, and how we're losing our ability to think for ourselves. I think there's truth in that. When you're always using AI to think for you, you end up giving up something in return. When you're always asking it to write everything for you, to remember everything for you, to solve everything for you, and to make the small decisions, you have to wonder how much of the thinking you're actually doing. And I don't think that's the whole story. And I think there's another side to this that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, which is using AI to think better rather than to think less. And I found that particularly interesting because I'm someone who spends a lot of time thinking through things in my head. I'll have an idea, I'll have a decision I'm trying to make, I'll have something that's bothering me. And you don't always have someone around you that you want to share that with. And even if you do have a parent or a friend, they're not always the best option to give you an analytical perspective. They care about you, and that's a good thing. But they'll also protect your feelings, they'll tell you what you want to hear. They'll look at a situation from their own perspective. But AI doesn't share that relationship with you. At least when you use it properly, you can put your thoughts down and ask it to challenge them. You can ask it to find holes in your reasoning. You can ask it to give you a different perspective. You can ask it to highlight where you're being irrational. And I think it's incredibly useful because I use it all the time. You're sitting and you might have a thought that you think is completely rational, and then you enter it into your LLM, and it'll come back and tell you that you were approaching it from a very narrow perspective. It's something as simple as just going to the gym. I might convince myself that I need to go because I've built this personality around being disciplined, but after I enter all the information, it tells me that I just haven't slept enough. And if I decide to go after working hard all week, I'll probably be maintaining my self-image more than maintaining my health. And I think that's important, right? Especially for people who aren't naturally comfortable opening up to other people. You get to write something down without the feeling of being judged, and you get something back that gives you a different perspective. And for a lot of people, that's going to be the first step in becoming more comfortable in expressing themselves. Now, I don't think AI replaces human relationships. I don't think AI should become your therapist, your best friend, or the only thing you talk to when things go wrong. Human beings can give you something that a language model simply can't. But I do see a future where AI becomes a lot more useful as a thinking partner, something that you can use to organize your thoughts, to challenge your assumptions, or to simply help you figure out what you were trying to say in the first place. And I think that's a much better future than to just let AI do everything for you. The underlying technology was never the problem, it's how you decide to use it. So I guess the better question isn't if AI is making you smarter or dumber. The better question is if you're using AI to think less or to think better. Think about it. And thank you for listening. I'll see you guys next week.